CHOP, the original Guillotine League podcast. Everything you need to know to avoid the chopping block. CHOP is brought to you by GuillotineLeagues.com. Now, your host, Paul Charchian.
Welcome to season number 6 of CHOP, the Guillotine League Podcast. I am Paul Charchian. My co-host, as he has been for virtually every episode in the history of CHOP, is Brian Johnson. Buddy, we're back.
What is up, Charch? Season 6, and what an intro we have now.
Yeah, that is
impressive.
Nice
graphics.
Work by the Fantasy Life staff putting together some outstanding graphics. If you're just listening to CHOP, because we've forever only been a podcast, now you can also see CHOP, the Guillotine League Podcast, on the Fantasy Life YouTube channel. We encourage you to check us out there as well. But you got to look at our faces, and that's a mixed blessing at best, Brian.
I know. You take the good with the bad, but it's mostly good stuff here. We got good advice starting in the preseason where we're at now, all the way through week 17, where you hope to be at the very end, because you got to survive to the very end to be successful in Guillotine Leagues.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we're here to get you ramped up for Guillotine Leagues. It's most of you that are listening to this now were a subscriber from a past year, perhaps. Most of you know how Guillotine Leagues work. But for the handful of you that do not, Brian, do you want to just tee people up on how Guillotine Leagues work? And then, again, most people will know already how it works, but we'll talk through that a little bit. And then we're going to get to just some of the big key draft strategies that you need to employ to give yourself the best chance of taking down your Guillotine League.
Yeah, let's do it. So Guillotine Leagues at a high level start with 18 teams. It can be as few as 2 teams, 3 teams, but our standard leagues are 18 teams. And you do a draft just like standard fantasy football, pretty standard roster sizes in terms of starting lineups: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex. But the main differences is there are no head-to-head matchups, no win-loss records. You are essentially playing the scoreboard starting in week 1. In week 1, all 18 teams set their starting lineup, but the lowest scoring team, after all games have completed in week 1, after that final Monday Night Football game, the lowest scoring team is chopped from the league, eliminated for the duration of the season. Their entire roster goes to free agency, where the remaining surviving teams can bid on all the players. And starting in the very first week of free agency, we're talking Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, players of those ilk are available via free agency. Everyone has $1,000 in their blind bidding budget. And that cadence just carries on throughout the season. The lowest scoring team chopped every week, and every week just the waiver wire is loaded with studs. You don't get this in any other format in fantasy football. And you survive to the very end, you're the grand champion of your Guillotine League, baby. That's it.
Just don't finish last in any given week. This is the only time in your life where finishing second to last every single week will give you a win, a championship. Whether it's life or your fantasy league, all you have to do is not finish last. You don't have to be the fastest antelope. You just have to be the second slowest antelope being chased by the cheetah. You start the season.
Most are sorry to cut you off. Most are familiar with Ricky Bobby, Will Ferrell's famous racing character, where if you ain't first, you're last. That's his saying. Our saying is, if you ain't last, you're first. Just don't come in last, and you're in first place every week. It's that simple.
What's more, Brian, coming in first gets you nothing in a Guillotine League. Nothing. Just don't finish last. As you mentioned, you start the season with $1,000 of fab, and much of the strategy of a Guillotine League is to figure out when to spend your money. So after week 1, hypothetically, a team's going to get cut. Their roster could be Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, Kenneth Walker, Brian Thomas, Baker Mayfield, Brian Robinson. Do you push in a bunch of chips on Derrick Henry right then, knowing he could be your starter for the rest of the year? Or do you hold back that $1,000 of fab, hoard it, knowing that every week better and better rosters are getting chopped? Next week, maybe it's Devon Achane and Marvin Harrison and Joe Burrow and Tyreek Hill and Kyle Pitts, Brian. Would you put in all 1,000 on Kyle Pitts?
We'll see how the season goes. After his first game, his rookie year, maybe. But no, we get into weekly bidding advice in the season. But at a high level, do not be spending too much money in the first week of bidding on anyone, even Kyle Pitts.
This format, the guillotine format, so awesome. The win that you get if you're able to take down a guillotine league, there's nothing like it in fantasy sports. Surviving 17 CHOP events to be the last one standing is as epic as it gets in season-long fantasy football. The wins I've had there are the wins that I remember way, way more than any of my traditional league wins, and some of the losses too. Brian, I'm still grieving from a loss like 3 years ago in the championship when Alvin Kamara on the Saturday scored 6 touchdowns against me and effectively ended my guillotine league run on a Saturday before my guys even got to play. You'll remember this. The anxiety is just unparalleled. The fun is unparalleled, and building these superstar rosters.
Yeah,
Right.
that was on Christmas Eve, no less. The Alvin Kamara.
That was a Christmas Eve drubbing right there.
Dagger game.
Yes.
It's a Guillotine League championship, far superior to a standard fantasy championship with win-loss records where, let's be honest, a lot of those championships are pretty fluky, right? The champion usually has a very soft schedule. He gets lucky. He plays, every week he's playing the lowest scoring team. Or in a Guillotine League, if you get to the end, you earned it. There is some luck involved. It's mainly avoiding bad luck. There's not a lot of good luck in Guillotine Leagues. It's all strategy. I say that in a good way. You know what I mean? It's just an entirely different format of fantasy football. If you've never played it, you're going to love it. And for those who have played it, that's why they're back.
That's why they're back. You're going to build a superstar roster with a Guillotine League, the likes of which you've never seen before. And if you're alive in December, you're going to be making decisions like, well, do I bench Nico Collins this week so I can maybe play Puka Nacua instead? I mean, some of the decision making you're going to have in December.
Oh yeah, no, it's
so
like, am I
fun.
starting Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Jaden Daniels in the championship?
Yes. right. You never.
And you'll
get
stay
that
up all
anywhere
night pulling your hair out thinking about it, but that's the best part of it. Yeah,
Speaking
insane
of-
rosters at the end.
Speaking of staying awake nights, your Monday nights take on a whole new meaning in Guillotine Leagues, as you know, Brian.
Mhm.
You're in one of two ways. One, if you're a cut candidate on Monday Night Football and you need your tight end, let's just say it's Kyle Pitts, to get you 4 catches and 40 yards because you need 8 PPR points to avoid the chop, man, your Monday night takes on a whole new feel when your season will end if Kyle Pitts does not get you 4 and 40. And even if you're not in a position where you're going to get chopped on Monday night, you get to watch the other teams that are, so you can start looking at the players that you're going to get to bid on.
Well, yeah, the vultures are already circling around those potential corpses at the bottom of the scoring. But yeah, you're either rooting for yourself or like you could be the guy, right above, and you're rooting. You don't want Kyle Pitts to get those 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. He's probably not going to get them. You're probably going to survive. But yeah, Monday Night Football, even if you don't have players involved, your whole league is involved. Just watching, you can cut the tension with a knife throughout the league, across the country, across the globe in your Guillotine League.
Absolutely. GuillotineLeagues.com. You can join free leagues there. Your private league can run for free as well. GuillotineLeagues.com. Let's talk through some of the draft strategies for people that are going to be assembling rosters for Guillotine Leagues in August. Let's talk about some of the things that you have to do differently. You have to unlearn a lot of the training that you've had, Brian, to this point to bring down a regular league, very different from what you need to do to stay alive in a Guillotine League. What do you believe is draft tip number 1 for people that are drafting for their Guillotine Leagues for the first time?
Well, we kind of touched on it earlier. You're drafting for safety. You want players with a high ceiling in the early rounds. Most should. Most early round prospects should have a high ceiling, but you got to avoid the low floors, whether it be injury concern. All players have injury risk, but let's be honest, there are some like Christian McCaffrey that we're a little more worried about. So you don't need the high ceiling players. You draft the safe players, and those are, because Guillotine Leagues is full PPR scoring, certainly players that catch passes. And we'll get into like the tight ends, how important premium tight ends are later, but it's really just drafting for safety. And you do want to factor the bye weeks. You're not going to full fade a star player in the first round because he's got a bye in week 5. But if you're torn between two players, one has a bye week in week 5 and one has a bye in week 14, I'm probably taking the guy with the week 14 bye 10 out of 10 times. But it's really just drafting for safety because you cannot whiff on your early round picks in a Guillotine League. You can afford to go 0-1, 0-2 in your standard fantasy leagues with a bad first round pick, but a bad pick in a bad first or second or both picks in a Guillotine League, and you're toast week 1.
We need reliable, not flashy, weekly producers. You want volume guys. You want guys who get the ball in their hand a lot, even if they're not special with it. You know, who you don't want is who, for example, Jameson Williams has been to this point of his career, and it might change this coming season, but he is a thrilling deep ball receiver. But when Jameson Williams doesn't connect on those long passes, those irregular long passes, he's a low volume receiver in an offense that needs to get the ball to 5 other players in Detroit. So Jameson Williams has these games or these big spike games, and then he has the dud games. And it's those dud games. You get 2 or 3 of those from your players in the same week, and your season's over. Meanwhile, what you do want to target are players who can score fantasy points multiple ways. Of course, quarterbacks who run and pass are great because they're less likely to get a dud game, because even if their passing doesn't click, their running might. And if the running doesn't click, the passing might. So they're more immune to bad games. Bo Nix, nice example of a player that can run and pass. Running backs who run and catch are great for their PPR floor. Last year, I rode Austin Eckler, who finished as running back 32 in PPR scoring, so not special. But what Eckler did is almost every week, it was 3, 4, 5 catches, 30, 40, 50 yards through the air. And then he'd throw in another 30, 40 yards on the ground. And the next thing you know, I've got 10 PPR points from Austin Eckler, and he's keeping me alive. Running backs who run and catch are great. Receivers who get volume are our best options because this is PPR. If you can get to 5, 6, 7 catches, you're most of the way to the 10 PPR points you're looking for every player. Brian, tip number 2. September. Let's talk about the month of September.
It's crucial. I mean, again, like in standard formats and in best ball, even you're looking ahead to week 17. You're like, oh, if I make the playoffs, do I have the good matchups in weeks 15, 16, and 17? No, that does not matter in Guillotine Leagues. Weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, they matter a lot. And it's up to individual players how much they want to weight the value of a like week 1 matchup. For me, it's incredibly valuable to me. Like I know off the top of my head, the Cowboys are playing the Eagles in week 1. The Eagles, arguably one of the best, arguably the best defense in the NFL. I don't know if I will be drafting CeeDee Lamb in the first round just because of that matchup against the Eagles. I almost draft my team as if I'm playing a DFS cash game. It's not a 50-50. It's you don't want to be the one out of 18 people that get chopped. So I will mitigate that risk as best I can, and that includes really weighting the early matchups for my early round picks. With week one being being the heaviest weight.
Yep, we're looking to stay alive in September. Your team's going to look so different. Your roster will look so different by October anyway. You know that your planning should just be on staying alive in September. I've got articles on Fantasy Life about the easiest and hardest September schedules. We encourage you to look those up. And those are, you can get a little bit of extra insight. For example, Jalen Hurts has got the easiest quarterback schedule in September. He's my number 1 ranked quarterback for Guillotine Leagues. Jalen Hurts, even though he's number 4 by most people in standard leagues, because of that easy schedule, because of the sure thing the tush push gives you, Jalen Hurts, my top ranked quarterback. All my rankings available at fantasylife.com for Guillotine League use specifically.
what people need
Brian,
to
let's
keep in mind in a draft too. The draft is like in other formats. It's basically your only chance to get a player unless you can trade for him. In a Guillotine League, pretty much everyone's going to be available to you at some point in the season as long as you stay alive. So don't like I mentioned CD Lamb earlier. Like I love CD Lamb this year, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to get him in the draft because that's my only chance to get him. He will be available. Everyone will be available at some point if you stay alive in a Guillotine League. So just you don't have to get your guy in the draft. Let's put it that way. Don't go into a draft mentality.
Funny you mentioned CeeDee Lamb because he's got the hardest September schedule of any receiver. We encourage you to look up those articles at fantasylife.com. All right, let's talk about rookies, Brian. Rookies carry a lot of danger, even really good ones.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking high profile. Like I'll take a flyer on a rookie later as long as he's not like I'm not relying on him to be a starter, right? I'm not drafting him in the first 8 rounds. But yeah, the high profile rookies, they are risky and they usually disappoint. I mean, we got a couple examples. I'll mention Bijan Robinson from a couple of years ago. He was a first round pick in fantasy as a rookie. He didn't score a rushing touchdown until week 8, his rookie year. You know, he kind of saved you with some 4, 5, 6 catch games early on. So you got by like the skin of your teeth with Bijan, but he proved to be a very, very bad pick, basically. So he was a high profile rookie that flopped. Who was another one we were talking about the other day?
Wow, there's a bunch. I'll give you look at Marvin Harrison last year. You know, Marvin Harrison was, I believe, the 7th pick of the draft. He was viewed as an absolute lock. Disaster. Entire season was a disaster for Marvin Harrison from a guillotine standpoint where you needed consistency. Mostly dud games and some hard dud games and an occasional spike game that would have been tough to know was coming. But even other rookies, Brian Thomas last year, very inconsistent until week 11, and he's awesome. Bucky Irving, he's awesome, but he wasn't a reliable guillotine starter until week 10. 2 years ago, Jahmyr Gibbs, reliable starter after week 7. Even Justin Jefferson on a Hall of Fame trajectory, not a reliable starter until week 6. Out of the entire rookie class, most years, there are only 1 or 2 rookies that will be consistent fantasy producers from the get-go. And most likely, you're not going to guess right on who that guy is, Brian.
Nope, you're not. And we won't get into the weeds with the rookies right now. But right now, off the top of the head, I mean, it's Ashton Jeanty is the first and foremost. He's the most enticing one out there that people are drafted in first rounds. Tedero and McMillan. Travis Hunter. No thanks. Not in a Guillotine League. Not for me. I'll look for them in blind bidding mid-season. I'll go a safer route on draft day.
If I were going to take any rookie, it would be Ashton Jeanty, who looks like a week 1 volume starter for the Raiders.
So did Bijan Robinson, though. So did Bijan Robinson.
It's true.
But Arthur Smith is not on the Raiders staff as far as I know. So Ashton Jeanty should be a bell cow.
Since we're talking about it, I recently went back and looked at Pete Carroll and what he did with Kenneth Walker when Kenneth Walker joined the Seahawks. Walker was not a starter until week 6. But Kenneth Walker is also not Ashton Jeanty. You know, Walker was a 2nd-round pick. He did not walk in the door with the resume that Jeanty's got and the clear mandate to start. So, but I will use that as a data point. You know, Kenneth Walker, it took 6 weeks before he was trusted with a starting role and requisite reps.
Can I throw a deep Guillotine League sleeper out there? Just came up today.
If it's a rookie, let's hear it.
It is a rookie, and he's a Seahawk running back, and we know Kenneth Walker's there, Zach Charbonnet, but I'm seeing Damian Martinez is just crushing in pass protection right now from my boy Sam Darnold. So we're talking about late darts. You get a running back that's going to catch 3 or 4 passes late in a Guillotine League draft. Those guys are so valuable early in the season. Running backs can get you 4 or 5 catches. That's all you need from your running backs early on. But anyway,
when we start awarding points for pass pro, then I'll look at Damian Martinez. And until then, he's got to get by 2 guys to get playing time. I don't think I'm going there, but you can take him with the last pick of your guillotine.
I know our guy Thor Nystrom was very high on Damian Martinez pre-draft. So
Yeah,
he went
he
late
was.
based on Thor. So I don't know. I'm Damian Martinez. I'm just putting it out there.
Brian, should guillotine players stack? Should they take multiple players from the same team?
No, you do not stack. Not early on, not midway through the season. You can start thinking about stacking when you're going up against the other mega powers in your league. But yeah, this is not DFS. This is not best ball. You do not want more than one egg in one basket. Basically, you don't need the high ceiling. You just, again, if you ain't last, you're first. Just come in second to last, and you're golden. So spread out your assets early on in a guillotine league. So yeah, you don't want to be drafting. You're drafting Jamar Chase. Don't be stacking Joe Burrow with him. Don't reach for Burrow as an early quarterback, QB5, QB6 ish. So just spread your assets around and worry about stacking later on against the super teams.
Yeah, do not stack early, as you mentioned. Matt, let's take the Cincinnati Bengals as an example, and you could very well have Jamar Chase. You could very well have Chase Brown. You could have Joe Burrow. You could have T. Higgins. Some combination of two or, God forbid, three of those guys. But just imagine what happens to that offense if Joe Burrow goes down. And dude takes a lot of sacks, too. The offensive line's never good. If he goes down, then what? That's, the whole offense is at major, major risk. And and even in game, so if Joe Burrow goes down in the first quarter, not only are you going to get nothing out of Joe Burrow, but you may get nothing out of T. Higgins if that was the two guys you had. And so that puts you in a position where you get chopped. So we're going to be really, really careful on our stacking. We will mostly not do it at all. If you are going to do it, you're stacking in your 12th round pick, your 13th round pick, your 14th round pick, guys you can move on from if you need to, and probably aren't starters. All right, final tip, which you've already alluded to, Brian. Let's talk through the early bye weeks. Tell people why early bye weeks are just so dangerous.
Yeah, again, unlike standard fantasy football, if I've got a few guys in bye in week 5, I'm like, I might take the L, but it's okay. I'm 4-0. I can take a loss in my boring standard fantasy football league. No, that's not the case in a guillotine league. You cannot have 3 key players on bye in week 5. I don't even want to really have one early round pick on bye in week 5. It really diminishes their value, especially in blind bidding. We won't get too deep into it now, but say we're in week 4 and you're bidding on a guy in week 5, you got to suppress the value of that big time. So buys important in every format of fantasy football, but they are the most important in guillotine leagues. So again, I use buys as a tiebreaker if I'm torn between players, even if it's a week. That matters. The later the buy, the better. It's that simple.
Yep. This is more than just like a tiebreaker between two guys. This should materially be reflected in your rankings, your personal rankings. Your week 5 teams on bye: Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Those teams, by week 5, the problem is there's still 13 teams left alive rolling into week 5, 13. If you've got 2 guys on bye, you're scrapping, and you got to spend early fab to make up for those 2 starters that are missing. So it forces you to spend money earlier than you want. The loss of those players, because there's still a lot of teams left, the loss, it's thin. You can't just take your 0 from Bijan Robinson and just go, you know what? I'll make up with it with somebody I'm going to pick up off the waiver wire, like Damian Martinez, whatever, right? You can't, it's not going to fly. So be careful of week 5. Week 6 has only got Houston and Minnesota, but those are all teams that you need to show a little extra wariness on. Trust me, your team's still mostly going to look pretty wobbly at that stage, and those bye weeks definitely loom large. Brian, last thing I want to note in this episode, as we're talking about drafts in a guillotine league. Most regular leagues, your draft largely predicts what your finish is going to look like because you just can't change your roster that much. You can pick up some 3rd string running backs off the waiver wire, a 5th string wide receiver who emerges due to injury and gets playing time or whatever, and you might make a good trade. But you can recover from a bad draft so easily in a guillotine league, much more so than any other format. talk about that as sort of a safety net in Guillotine Leagues, your ability to recover from a bad draft.
Yeah, this will kind of lead into future episodes, but yeah, if you think you had a bad draft, again, odds are you're going to survive in an 18-team league, right? Well, what are the odds that you get chopped out of what? It's like 1%, 1.5%, something like that. So you have a bad draft. Don't freak out about it. To win a Guillotine League, it is all about your fab management. And so when you survive week one and you see those big names, again, you're not going to want to spend a lot of fab. Just stay good enough to not come in last place. And the more fab you save, like you said many times, Charch, you're by October already, you will have 3 or 4, and you don't even have to spend a lot of money on them. You'll have 3 or 4 guys that are key contributors that were not on your roster to start the season. So just you can't miss on the early picks in a Guillotine League. That's about it. But again, yeah, I don't know if much more to add on that topic. Just
that's all right. It's the only, if you have a bad draft, it comes, you get out of week one and you're like, oh, some of the key things that I thought were going to happen did not happen. Like, let's say you're me. I love Tank Bigsby. I think Tank Bigsby is going to end up being the starting running back and the workhorse back in Jacksonville with the new head coach, Liam Cohen. I think he's found his new Bucky Irving, and it's going to be Tank Bigsby, except he can't catch like Bucky can catch, which is true. If I'm wrong and I survive week one, I can throw money at the problem. I don't want to spend money after week one, but I can. If I was counting on Tank to be my starter, whoever did get chopped, I can just go bid a lot of money, go get that guy, and I can fix that problem. That counts.
Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of the Guillotine League is there's so many ways to win. So many ways to win. We love it.
It all comes back to the fab, though. We're going to hammer that home a lot. You'll be tempted to spend that fab early, but you want to dumb down those urges.
Suppress your urges. That's the Guillotine League format right there. Suppress your urges.
Pinch your pants.
We mentioned that you'll have plenty more opportunities to hear about Guillotine Leagues every Tuesday and Thursday, the CHOP podcast with you. And coming up next Thursday, we're going to talk about September and October players that you can start in these early months, but aren't going to be good enough that to power you through November and December when everybody's got superstar rosters. I mentioned one of them that we'll talk about as a sneak preview already, Austin Eckler. Those 10 PPR points are golden in the first 2 months, not enough in the second 2 months. We'll identify those players that you can start early in a Guillotine League and are absolutely worth targeting, but maybe aren't guys that you're going to start down the stretch. Thanks for watching and listening to CHOP, the Guillotine League podcast. We'll be back on Thursday. Bye-bye, everybody.